The life of Saint Nikiforos the leper, who was born in 1890 and reposed in the Lord in the year 1964. Saint Nikiforos, in the world Nikolaos, was born in a village of Chania in Serikari. His parents were simple and pious villagers who, while he was still a small child, died and left him an orphan. Thus, at the age of 13, he left his home, travelled to Chania, and began to work in a barber shop. There, he started to show the first signs of Hansen's disease, in other words, leprosy. At that time, lepers were exiled to the island of Spinalonga because leprosy was a transmissible disease and was treated with fear and horror. Nicholas, when he was 16 years old, and when the signs of his disease began to be more visible, to flee from the enclosure of Spinalonga, fled with a boat for Egypt. There he remained working in Alexandria, again in a barber shop. However, the signs of his disease became even more evident, especially on his hands and his face. Due to the suggestions of a cleric, he fled to Chios, where there was a home for lepers, in which was a priest, Father Anthimos Vaianos, later Saint Anthimos of Chios. Nicholas reached Chios in 1914 at the age of 24. At the leper home in Chios, where there was a grouping of many beautiful little homes, was a chapel of Saint Lazarus, where was preserved the wonder-working icon of Panagia of Ipakoi, in other words, obedience. In that place was opened the stadium of virtues for Nicholas. Within 2 years, Saint Anthimos discerned that he was ready for the angelic schema and tonsured him a monk with the name Nikiforos. The disease progressed and evolved in the absence of suitable medicines and brought many great changes. The medicine was later found in 1947. Father Nikiforos lived with indiscriminate, genuine obedience, with austere fasting, working in gardens. He also compiled in a catalogue the miracles of Saint Anthimos, which he had seen with his own eyes. Many took the place of healing of the demon-possessed. There was a unique spiritual relationship between Saint Anthimos and the monk Nikiforos, who did not separate himself from him by even a step, as mentioned by Father Theoklitos of Dionysiou in his book Saint Anthimos of Chios. Father Nikiforos prayed for endless hours at night, performing countless prostrations, not offering a word to anyone, nor spoiling his heart on anyone, and was the head chanter of the church. Because of his illness, however, slowly he lost his eyesight, and most of the hymns were chanted by others. In 1957, the Lovocomio of Chios was closed, and the remaining patients, along with Father Nikiforos, were sent to the anti-leper station of St. Barbara in Athens, in Eialon. At that time, Father Nikiforos was about 67 years old. His body parts and his eyes had been totally affected and transformed from the illness. There, in the anti-leper station, lived Father Evmenios, who also had Hansen's disease, but because of medical advances was totally cured. He decided, however, to remain for the rest of his life in the anti-leper station near his fellow patients, who he treated with much love. Thus he became a spiritual father of Father Nikiforos, to whom, as a reward for his patience, the Lord had granted many gifts. Many people flocked to the humble cell of the leper monk Nikiforos at St. Barbara of Eialeo to receive his blessing. Those who met him mentioned that Though he was confined to bed with wounds and pains, he did not murmur, but showed great patience. He had the grace of comforting the troubled. His eyes were constantly irritated, his vision was minimal, and he had hooked hands and paralyzed lower extremities. Besides all of these, he was most sweet, mild, greatly smiling, relating grace-filled stories. He was enjoyable, lovable. His face, which were eaten by the signs of his sickness and wounds, shone and imparted joy to all who saw this totally poor and phenomenally sick man, who said, "Let his holy name be glorified." At the age of 74, on January the 4th, 1964, Father Nikiforos reposed in the Lord. His holy relics were fragrant when they were later uncovered. Father Evmenios and other pious people offered many occasions when miracles occurred at the intercessions of Father Nikiforos. He said, "My children, do you pray? And how do you pray? With the prayer of Jesus, you should pray with the Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me." Thus you should pray. This way is good. Nikiforos the Venerable, through his struggles with leprosy and his manliness in asceticism, astonished the angels. For suffering as another Job, he endured, glorifying God, and now he is crowned with glory by him with wonders of discernment. Hail, of guide of monastics! Hail, O covering of light! Hail to you, from whose relics pour forth joyous fragrance.